Well, we've been friends since the 70s. He used to be known as Dr. T. Garrett Benjamin Jr. Then it was Bishop Tom Benjamin. And you are?
Uh, well, I am whatever they call me, but, Tommy to my wife, and uh, it was Tommy to my grandmother, and it was Benji, which my oldest son, he goes by that same name now, Benji, when I was in prep school in New Hampshire. And, but you know what? Just call me, whatever you want to call me. When you get a certain age, you just want somebody to call you.
Speaking of age, I'm 72, you're 80, and we're
Watch
still
it.
alive and kicking.
Yeah, yeah. Could be better, could be worse, could be riding in a hearse.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Hey, man, tell us about you mentioned her, but tell us about your greatest influence besides the Lord.
I just gave you one of her quotes. That's what she used to tell me. Jesus never fails. I said, but Grandma, how are you feeling today? She would be dealing with some arthritis, and she'd get out some Sloan's liniment, and she'd get out some Sorbine Junior, and the house would smell with all of these liniments. And she would say, well, could be better, could be worse. I could be riding in a hearse. And so, yeah, this woman was incredible. 5 foot tall.
Full name.
Yeah.
Full name. What's her name?
Marilla Roberts Jackson. Marilla Roberts Jackson. Her mother.
This is your maternal grandmother.
Maternal grandmother. Her mother's name was Willie Roberts, who was a faith healer in New Jersey back in the days when, but we had a tremendous relationship. She took me when I was 5 years old. I told the story in my book, Mama's Boy, about how
that's a book.
Yeah,
that's a book.
Yeah, Mama's Boy. That book was just a sliver of what really happened with my grandmother and I. But the key was that my parents divorced when I was 5 years old. My father was
your dad was a professional, very high level.
Yeah, father was a practicing dentist. My mother was a librarian. They both were highly educated. One from the Harry Medical School, the other from Howard University. But they couldn't keep the marriage together. And at 5 years old, I had very little influence. But they sent me on a train to Cleveland, Ohio. I did not really know where. 5, just 5. Yeah. I did not know where I was going. I was by myself. I was in a sleeper car. I remember, it's interesting, how I can remember, but that was such a traumatic and dramatic experience that, I remember the clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety train. I love trains to this day for that, I guess for that reason. But got to Cleveland, the porter got me dressed and put me at the window and asked me, which one of those folks out there is your grandmother? And here this little lady with this little old looking coat, little short little lady, she was prancing and she was going up and down and the steam was coming up from the engines. And he took me to the steps and I said, there she is. And she saw me and I saw her and she opened her arms and I jumped off the train into her arms and she said, how's Mama's boy? Well, Grandma, wow. I know she's in heaven now and I know she's at peace and full of great joy. Just want you to know that Mama's boy, he hadn't given up yet. And thank you for everything. Whew. Yeah.
Big influence. You felt loved by her, didn't you? And she also really tutored you in a way, a tutelage that prepared you for a highly successful professional life. Is that true?
Yeah, she was a businesswoman. And she had, Roger, she had an incredible influence in Cleveland. She was not a headline lady. You would not even know that she existed, but her employees and people that worked for her called her Jen, which was short for general. She was she had a double on Bryan Avenue in the Glenville area on the east side of Cleveland. we lived there on the bottom floor, and she rented out the top floor
Hmm.
to single men who worked for the railroad or worked for the city bus system.
Hmm.
And she kept buying properties and buying properties and buying properties. And we had all over. I remember her collecting rent. We used to go from one place to another for her to collect rent. She kept
You would go with her to
I would go
collect
with
rent?
her. Yeah, I would go
Wow.
with her. Yeah,
Wow.
and these were clean, very well kept places, and we were very proud of them. But she would do that, and then you know, we both having the experience in Indianapolis know of the Indianapolis Recorder.
Right.
She started a newspaper very similar to that called the Cleveland Herald in
Now, what
Cleveland.
year would that have been? The Cleveland
This
Herald.
was in the late 40s, early 50s, late
Wow.
40s, early in industrial Cleveland.
Hmm.
Single black woman. Husband
Hmm.
died when I actually was born. So
Hmm.
she's by herself. She's pulling it and just got tremendous business sense.
Now,
And
but was that more out of an activist? In other words, I want to speak up type of mentality.
no, I think it was more out of an excellence mentality. I think she felt that she should be an example, and she set an example. After the newspaper, and I used to go up there, 105th Street on Hathaway. People who are listening to this possibly from Cleveland would understand exactly where that is, on the
Hmm.
corner of Hathaway and 105th. But then she bought some land with some houses on Massey Avenue, which was maybe 15 blocks from there,
Hmm.
and she had those houses raised, and she also then bought a building behind the Tijuana nightclub,
Hmm.
and the building she turned into what was called the Hotel Thomas, which was named after me. And
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
and it was the only hotel in the Glenville area, and she ran that for probably about 15 years, and
Now, I
then
want to
she
stop.
yeah
I want to
yeah
stop you for a second
yeah
because I'm hearing some threads of things out of our friendship over the years. She had an influence you in the terms of excellence. That's
yes
something that I've always noticed about you, that you really want excellence in everything.
yes
And from them having her rentals being clean and tidy
yes
to starting a newspaper and then real estate developer, really, and then hospitality with Hotel Thomas.
yeah
Wow, that's amazing. I see that in you, really.
yeah. Well, and that's why you started out our program today. And let me thank you, Roger. I can't. While I'm every time I need to thank you for being available and being interested and
I am.
making such a difference in this docu series.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
it.
yeah. She was she used to use another phrase. She had a lot
Uh-oh.
of them, but
Here we go.
that excellence is paying attention to detail. She used to
Yeah.
tell me always, Tommy, don't even let a piece of paper be on the floor. Pick it up, and she was like that. But you know the other thing about her,
But say that quote one more time. I want it to sink in.
excellence is paying attention to detail.
Hmm.
So you know some of my church members would be a little put out with me because I pressed that so hard. If
Hmm.
a piece of paper was on the floor, I was trying to figure out why someone wouldn't pick it up. And the usher would walk right over it. Oh, no, we can't do that. You have to pick that up. And we can't have a lot of unnecessary extraneous noises going on in the church. And you can't just go and come when you want to and walk out and come when, yes, we all have emergencies and we all have to go to the bathroom, but you cannot just be moving around. So we kept a sense of order and decency because my grandmother did it. And then she also, even with the furniture in our home, everything was A+. There was a furniture store in Cleveland called Mantell's, had the most, back then had the most uh, futuristic furniture, just beautiful stuff. She The hotel lobby was like that. Everything was, our house was like that. And let me
Wow.
just say one other thing so you'll understand. People who often would say sometimes in Indianapolis, he sure is doing good and looks like he's making, a whole lot of money and da da da. Yeah. Well, I did good because my grandmother did good. And I did
Hmm.
good because I worked hard. Nobody
Yes.
ever gave me anything. I
Yeah.
worked for it. And that's the way she operated. And
Yeah.
when she closed the hotel, she bought a home in Woodmere, Ohio. Well, she didn't
Hmm.
buy the home, she built the home. And when the
Wow.
last nail went in the home, it was paid for. And
Wow.
it was it was a home. Well, it had, back then, she's the only person that I know had a swimming pool. She had it all. But
Wow.
she was 24/7. Marilla Roberts
Yeah, so
Jackson. All
say your
praise
name one more time.
Marilla Roberts Jackson, all praises be to God and to her as my greatest influence. Let me say one other thing. The woman was a prayer warrior. Okay.
Hmm.
I would see her struggling with arthritis and all kinds of issues, but she never stopped. But what I did see, I said, Mama, I don't understand how your legs hurt so, but you're always on your knees. She said, that's
Hmm.
because I'm always on my knees. And I would see
Hmm.
her at her bed. I would come, she would be on her knees praying. And I said, Mama,
Hmm.
what you doing? She said, I'm praying for you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Man, let's shift gears, Tom. She was an influence on you, and there was a cool little story behind you getting into that prep school. Why did you go to prep school,
Yeah.
and how did that happen?
Okay. We're back to the same, thing. You know, um, it's back to the excellence piece.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted me. Cleveland was getting to be a little rough, and
Mm-hmm.
not as rough as it is today, but it was getting rough, and she wanted me to have the best education. She used
Mm-hmm.
to watch a television program called What's My Line?
Hmm.
John Daly, this goes way back. The old folks will remember this. It was a great program, but he was so articulate and so smart. And she noticed one time that he said, "I just got back from my little school in New Hampshire, in Tilton, New Hampshire, of which I am the chairman of the board of trustees, and um, I that's why I missed last week's program, et cetera, et cetera." So my grandmother said, "Oh my goodness!" So she wrote him and said, "What is the
She wrote.
school
She
that you?"
wrote. She wrote a letter to
Wrote a
John
letter
Daly.
to him. So what is the
Yeah.
school you in? He wrote her back, and
Wow.
she said she'd like to see my little grandson go to that school, and he made it possible for me to
Wow.
quickly get in. And I started in the lower school, what was called, I guess that would be called junior high school, or
Mhm.
back then. And then I went all the way through, and it was 200 boys, very expensive. My grandmother made a tremendous.
Hmm. Sacrifice. Take your time.
Yeah, we're good. Go ahead.
Take your time. She made a tremendous sacrifice because she loved Tommy, and Benji, and she wanted to get you on the right path, the right set of skills, and so then you became a doctorate. You earned your doctorate,
Yeah.
and
Well, yeah. Let me just say this. The quote for me is the one that she, when she left the school that day after taking me, driving me, she had someone drive us up there. I'd never been to New Hampshire, never knew any state that could be that white. And, but it all worked out. But she said in leaving me, she said, I said, Grandma, how can I ever pay you back? She said, you can't. Love is not to be paid back. It's to be passed on.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that as a charge. And
Yes. I remember you used to always end your TV program with, God loves you and so does Tom Benjamin.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's between Grandma and Robert Schuller. But yeah.
Well, I personally have I'm a recipient of yours and Bev's love personally, for which I am grateful.
Yeah.
And speaking of her, who is your greatest gift as we wind up this segment?
Yeah. Greatest gift is Beverly Jean Benjamin. Roger, she was Beverly Jean Harris. And the story is kind of funny, but it's interesting. I met Beverly in Cleveland after I had graduated from college. We lived 2 blocks apart and never knew each other, but there was a 5-year difference in our ages. So we were in the same grade school and didn't know each other, but I was in the 6th grade, she was in the 1st grade. It was that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I didn't know her until after I had graduated from college. And we used to double date. My fraternity brother and he was going with her, and I was going with another girl.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you know how that can happen. So, we were dance partners. We would always dance.
Well, I know the line. She gave you that glance and said, "You've got a chance."
She gave me that glance while we were in the middle of a dance, and and I didn't have a chance. And so she that's how I met her. But the interesting thing about it is she doesn't like me to tell this story, but it's true though, and she knows.
Wait, no. I love her too.
No, this one you got to hear. One you got to hear. She called me one night. This was when she was still going with the other guy, and she said, with tears, she said, Virgil, he just doesn't. He's not treat. I said, Virgil. I said, yeah, that's your boyfriend. He said, yeah, but now the name Virgil alone creates a whole other thing for you in your head, But anyway, Virgil, he's gone to New York. He didn't tell me he went on business and and he never told me. And he's supposed to, we had a covenant to talk to each other about when we, and I'm just so upset. I said, well, honey, don't cry. Let's go to the movie. And so we went to dinner and we went to the movie, and that was it. Now he never forgave me. I don't know. But anyway, she is the best blessing. And I'll just say in closing this, and particularly to pastors, but to anyone.
First of all, I know when a preacher says in closing, I know we're going to be here for another 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, remember, when a preacher looks at his watch, that means absolutely nothing. So no, let me just close with this. We have a responsibility. The Bible instructs us that wisdom is the principal thing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we make bad decisions because they're not wise decisions. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I did gain from my grandmother was that old folks' wisdom. Mm-hmm. And
mother wit.
Yeah, she's the one who told me when Virgil and Beverly came to the house one Saturday morning and I was asleep. This was before I was saved. I'd been out half the night, whatever, and I was asleep. Before I was saved, mark that down. Okay, so then they came by the house. He got in a new car. He wanted to show it off. And so my grandmother let him in, talked to him, and she had not really known Beverly or met Beverly, but when they left, and I never got out of bed, by the way, when they left, she said, now that's the kind, you brought a lot of girls around me and don't like them, but that's the one that you really should. I said, well, she's going with, she said, I don't care. That's the one. So there's that influence, buddy. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So it's
we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
We plan to do it in segments and try to talk about everything from ministry all the way to retirement, and you're enjoying your life in retirement in California. And So we're going to be talking about that. So guys, stick around, stay tuned. You got one more thing to say.
Can I just
this
close
is your
with
second close, right?
You know how we do, but got to close with this. Pastors, husbands, prospective husbands, the choosing of a mate might be one of the most important, no, not might be, is one of the most important things that you can do. For your mate in ministry or in life can either make you or break you. Thank you, Beverly Jean, the Queen.
Wow.
I married high.
We'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Adios.